Hi guys and welcome to today's video. I have a very juicy haul for you today from Nomad Cosmetics. As you can see from the title of this video, I have hauled basically all the palettes, apart from the Valentine's Day palette because I made this order before that palette was even released, so it was too late. It took about a month to get to me, 6 weeks maybe to get to me. I purchased all of the Nomad palettes that have been intriguing me, that I've desired, that I've wanted, that I've lusted over, and I just made one big order for it. So let's just dive straight in. I just want to show you what I got, man. Because all I have here today are eyeshadow palettes, I will swatch all of them, as she says. I will swatch all of these palettes I'm about to show you. And I want to give them like a little quick ranking perhaps of like the most excited I am or impressed I am just by swatches, just like that initial first impression before touching my eyes. If any of these palettes genuinely intrigue you and you want to see me apply them, please just let me know and I will do that. Or I'll just include it into any old video or just apply it to my eyes like I did today with the Colourpop Aurora Struck palette. I want to play around with the blues. So holler at me if you want to see any of these. But let's go. Are you ready? The first one is these. I picked up the Whistler's Snow Lodge palette. I feel like this is a really beautiful palette. It reminds me of just like stamp collecting, I think, or just kind of motel vibes, very lodgy. I suppose it is a Whistler's Snow Lodge. And inside, this is the packaging by the way, really, really pretty. Do you know what I mean by like that motel vibe? Like motel in the woods. I love it. Inside, it looks like this. Oh, it's got a mirror in it as well. Oh, it's really pretty. Sorry, I'm like, you're not allowed to see. This is what the palette looks like. You've got those beautiful blues and greens in the middle there, some reds. So, and it's just some like odd shades and like a nice like olivey green gold there. Really, really nice. The mattes in this palette are really lovely actually. You've got some really nice depth here. And that blue, like these types of blues here, these three blues down the centre, is exactly how I like to do blue eyeshadow on me. I like a really pale pastel blue, a deep navy blue, and then something in the middle or a shimmer to kind of blend them together. So I feel like this is a really well constructed colour story. I love the greens. You know I'm an absolute hoe bag for a green. I love that. These golds do look kind of like grungy, olivey, kind of khaki gold. So I really like that, and then the burgundy. This is a really, really nice palette. I'm really excited for this one. I'm excited for all of them, but really, really lovely. Love it. I think I'm just going to show you them all first and then I'll swatch them all together, throw up some music, and then I can just quickly rank them as opposed to showing the swatches as I go, I think. Maybe, yeah, we'll do that. I picked up this one, which was, I don't know what it's actually called, Provence, France. It's like the French palette. This one really intrigued me because it's a colour story that I don't think I own in my collection, not as one palette anyway. It looks really, really pretty. It's like this beautiful like French cafe kind of vibe with the wine and everything, and I really, really like it. There is actually some glittery elements like on the palette and all like raised. It does feel really, really well made. I feel like this is very mid-toned, and honestly it's not the sort of thing I have because I don't normally go for this sort of thing. Because it's so mid-toned, I like a depth and contrast. This is very pastel up top, very mid-tone shimmers, and then even like the depth of it isn't very deep in my mind, as opposed to like the Whistler's Snow Lodge palette for example. You've got a real depth going on. I feel like in this, I don't know how to pronounce this, Fêtes de Provence, maybe Provence. It's really pretty though. I think you've got like a good range of like mattes and shimmers in this palette. It looks really, really pretty. I love the embossings in all of these palettes. I think they're so pretty. I feel like I'm really attracted to these mattes here along the bottom, but equally it's quite springtime appropriate as well. It's very pink, pastel-y, lavendery, yellow, you know, like very springtime appropriate, but equally quite autumn appropriate if you lent into the depth a bit more. So yeah, I'm excited to play around with this one because I don't own anything quite like it. The next palette is this one. This, I have actually been to this place. This is the Iceland palette. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it's like, I mean, you can sort of, it's like raised and like bumpy, and it just feels nice. You can see there with the light shining. It feels like nice and bumpy and raised and just like effort's gone into it. So interestingly, I wasn't going to pick this palette up because I do have things like this, and like I love teal. I do really, really like teal. I've been trying to get into it a bit more and I really do like colour. But I kind of was a bit like looked at this and a bit stumped as to what I would do with it. But when I started seeing people's reviews, because I did have a look at a few reviews before and like ranking videos before purchasing all of these, people were creating really beautiful looks, and I just kind of, it was a bit like a whim moment, like yeah sure, chuck it in, why not. I feel like this isn't going to be my most used palette. I have been to Iceland, so I think the colour story is pretty good. I think for me where I'm going to struggle is doing like the mattes and shimmers in the same palette, but because I've bought so many other palettes, I feel like this can be a really good like palette number 2 to dip back into for other things. These metallics are really shifty and shiny. Hopefully they pay off in the swatches just the same. And the mattes are really interesting as well. I feel like I don't quite own like a really grey toned green like that, or like a Cheeto orange like this. You know, there's some really interesting colours in here, and yeah, I thought I'd just pick it up because why not? This one I'm really hyped for. This is the Hudson Valley palette. I really wanted this one, and I was so glad they had it still in stock. Again, the packaging is really sweet. It just literally, it is like an apple orchard in a palette. I think this is absolutely gorgeous. This palette for me is so autumnal, and it was their autumn palette, but it's just so nice. I love these like ruddy greens. I would create a beautiful all matte look with this. I think it's really nice and pared back how they've got just 2 lots of mattes either side and then these 3 metallics going down the centre. I think it's really simplistic. You've got the depth and the brightness, but it's muted, it's grungy, it's not like rainbow colours, if that makes sense. It's really lovely. I think it's really good like variations of greens and orangey reds. I'm really excited to play around with this one. I feel like I keep saying I'm excited to play around, but honestly this one is probably one of the top ones I'm most excited, just opening the palette and looking at the colour story, because it's just so me. Like, I'd wear this to work, I'd wear this going shopping, I'd wear this sitting at home on the couch because, oh, it's so sexy looking. This one I just thought was so cute. This reminds me of all of the patches. This is the America's Parks palette, and I just love all the stickers and patches on this. I just love it for the packaging. If anything else, the inside of it is pretty nice. I'm not too sure about these marbled shades, to be honest. But honestly, like, it's a nice colour story. For me, this is nothing special. I know I have the greens here, which you know I love a green. To me, this is nothing particularly special. I just absolutely adored the packaging so much. Like, I love this like sticker vibe, and I'm not completely hyped over the colour story, but I feel like if these shades, like the glittery toppery shades, are nice, then maybe I'll feel different. But honestly, on first impressions, you've got 6 mattes in this entire palette and everything else is more metallic. I like a good mix. Like, I like 50-50. I do prefer mattes to be more present than the shimmers, just because I find I can create nicer looks with them. But yeah, more than anything, I'm just happy because I have it for the packaging, and I know that's a kind of a bogus reason, but there are some really nice mattes in here, and if these metallics play out nicely, they've got some really nice shifts. So I'm excited to see what this looks like, especially if you pair the Hudson Valley with it. I feel like this could be a really nice duo together, because they've got kind of a few shades that really lend themselves well, like very muted, kind of grungy with a few pops. We've got 2 more palettes. I told you there's a lot of palettes. This is the Paradise Islands palette. So this one was more of a pastel one. Again, I wasn't planning on picking this one up. I think there were 2 or 3 that I was kind of just like, well, you're making an order, why not? This is one of their bigger palettes. So just for reference, every other palette that I've showed you is this size, and it's how many shades? 15? This one is 18 pan. This one is very mid-toned, very pastel. Like the only deep shades of these 2 here, and I would still say they're not that deep. It's fine, like not every palette has to cater to my exact requirements. This is very mid-toned, very pastel-y, and I wanted to have it just because I thought it was very different. I don't own a ton of pastel palettes, and the pastel palettes I do own aren't anything like this, so I thought I'd just try them out. And finally, last but not least, is this palette, which is called Bosco Nuboso de Monteverde. I think I've butchered that, to be honest. But it's this palette here. It's got like this cute cutout, so I might keep the box because it's got the cute cutout for the animals that you can see, and then suddenly it blends into the rainforest. I think that's a really cool packaging idea. This palette, to me, looks like so much fun. It's essentially a green palette with lots of neons in. At first, I was like, oh, I don't really need this palette because it's like so neon and so rainbow. And when I started looking and delving deeper into what this palette actually was, if you like rearrange it, it's actually one like line, so 6 neons, and the rest of them are greens, and you know I love greens. So I'd say there's definitely some palettes here that I didn't necessarily have my heart set out for. This one was kind of like a maybe, and it was a very strong possibility, and then when I saw people reviewing it and swatching it, and I was kind of seeing it for what it was, I was like, actually I could do so many good looks with this. So I did really want to pick this one up as well. So here are all the palettes. I did pick up 7, which is a bit crazy. I know, like, I've really got a problem at the moment with eyeshadow palettes. I just want all of them. Like, I literally just want every single eyeshadow palette I come across. It's not good. I'm going to go away and swatch all of these now and just give you an up close detailed look, throw some music over the top, and then I'm going to just rank them on first impressions and swatches. So here we go. I go away after swatching everything, have dinner and forget that I didn't do an outro? Yes. Did I take off all my makeup? Yes. Did I just reapply everything? Yes. Apart from the lashes. So if you wanted to know what lashes I had on, it was the Lunar Beauty Faux mink lashes in Stella. I haven't got them on now because I've literally took all the makeup off, put it all back on, so it's exactly the same. The struggles. Okay, so upon swatching, I was actually really impressed. I've got to say some of the matte eyeshadows were more powdery than I was expecting, in the sense of, and some of them, like my Odens eye ones, do this. I think this formula is going to be lovely, and I think I'm going to really enjoy it on my eyes. It's not going to be my favourite formula. I can already probably say that already without even putting it on my eyes, but I think I'm going to really have fun with it and really enjoy playing around with them. It's fine. I'm not appalled by what I've swatched. I mean, I'm glad because I've picked up 7 palettes, so I'm glad that is the case. I want to quickly rank these and give you like the first impressions and why I've kind of ranked them from least excited to most excited, or like least favourite to most favourite. Obviously I haven't put them on the eyes yet, it's just swatching them, just seeing the colour stories. So here we go. In 7th place, I'm going to put the Iceland Fire and Ice palette. Really lovely packaging. This colour story, honestly, like 7 and 6 are very close together. This colour story, I think I'm going to struggle with half of this palette. The blues, I don't think I'd struggle with. But like this element of the palette, I think I'd struggle with quite a bit because I don't really know what I'd pair it with. Like I could pair these with this matte and this blue, but then it's a blue look. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I can only see blue looks apart from this one like fiery lava trio here. But then equally I'm kind of like, well, that's kind of a bit of a given for me. So I don't know, I think I'm going to just struggle to make anything outside of a blue toned look. Maybe that's the objective of this palette, but I feel like there's a lot of like minty greens in this purple and the red and you know, like these cool like greenish colours that I'm just going to struggle a little bit with. However, the quality felt really good and I really liked the colours. I'm just not sure what I'm going to get out of just blue. So that's why it's in 7th. In 6th, I'm so sad, but this packaging is probably one of my favourite out of all 7 of these, and if I could just rate it on packaging alone, I'd be like, this is one of the top 3. But inside, I've got to say, it just felt a little bit lackluster for me. I'm excited to play around with it because there's some really beautiful mattes, but they all feel a little bit mid-toned. There's some really nice textures in here, but they just felt all quite toppery and not very opaque. There were some really nice opaque ones and you could definitely see that in my swatches. I'm just not sure that this is going to be like one of the first palettes that I pick up, and I feel like I'd have to have another palette out on the side to complete a look for me. You can definitely get some really good looks out of this green, burgundy, red, orangey, yellow. Beautiful shades, beautiful, and I really do like the colour story. But I just feel like I'm going to need something else, like a Blend Bunny palette to bring in some darker shadows and like an inner corner, things like that. That's why it's not my perfect palette. It didn't have to be my perfect palette. I wasn't expecting this to be my perfect palette, but that's just why it's ranking in 6th. Packaging though, packaging I'm obsessed with. It's like Girl Scout and I love it. In 5th place, this actually surprised me, but this is the Paradise palette. So this is the pastel, kind of pastel mid-toned one that we kind of looked at. This quality was actually really, really nice. The metallics were really lovely. And when I had it all swatched on my hand, I was actually really excited to play around with this on my eyes. Very springtime appropriate, very fresh, very fun, very poppy and, you know, popping of colour. Really excited to play around with this for a completely different reason. It's not like my perfect palette with contrast and depth and, you know, all of that brilliantness. But it is a really fun palette and I think I'm going to have a lot of, well, good fun with it. I'm very keen to try a green look, a blue look, you know, like a sangria vibe. You know, I love like a sangria vibe. And I think it's very easy to pull in other palettes to create that depth, to create that brightness that I really like. I think this is going to be a good accompanying palette. In 4th place, we have the Whistler's Snow Lodge, is it? Whistler's Snow Lodge? Yeah. This palette, again, I love the packaging. I love like the kind of stamp kind of collage vibe. I really, really like that. I think it's kind of crafty and fun. I really liked this one, and honestly when I saw that it was in 4th place I was quite surprised. I feel like these top 4 for me are like change the day of the week and they could be like, this one could be first, do you know what I mean? But this one has really lovely contrast and it's got those deep shades and I feel like I'm going to create some really lovely looks out of this. The only thing for me is the metallics. I feel like the only reason this one's in 4th and the others are higher than this is just because I don't know, like I can only see myself creating blue and green looks. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I just am less excited about this one as the other 3 in this present moment in time. However, really excited that I picked this one up and I'm glad I did. It's really cute looking and I loved the mattes. I love the metallics. Really, really excited. Drink every time I say excited. I'm so annoying. Number 3, the Monteverde. This was so cool. So you could see the electric colours in this, and honestly I was debating which one to put in 3rd place, but I think ultimately I'm probably more likely to pick up this one because it's got so many greens, so many metallics. These are bright pops, like the neons are so cool. And I don't have, like, I'd say I have 2 or 3 palettes in my collection that have this neon and this pigmented of mattes. Wait, did that make any sense? No, like this neon matte, this matte of a neon, this neon matte, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like, they're really, really lovely, really pigmented, and I think they really pair well with the greens. I wasn't expecting them to, and I think it's a different take on like a rainbow palette, and the packaging's really cool as well. Like I said, these two I'd say could swap at any point depending on when I first apply them on the eyes, and obviously I haven't yet, so these are kind of interchangeable. I'm as excited about these as one another. I just thought this one would take the cake a little bit because it's got a bit more variation. In 2nd place, I get so serious about these things. I'm like, have I made the right decision? In 2nd place, I've got the Fêtes de Provence palette. I think this is really interesting. This is very pastel-y, but equally you've got like these really grungy tones down here. This yellow was like insane. It was like a yellow green, really, really interesting. And it was just lovely. I just really like this palette. I think it's very different. The yellow separates out like the purples from like the pinky tones. Equally they work well with one another. I think you'd be able to create a really nice sunset look with this. And again, you can make it grungy or like grungier, or you can make it really light and fairy. I think I'm going to really enjoy this palette. And there's a lot of mattes in here, and I really like colourful mattes. In 1st place, if you've been keeping count, is the Hudson Valley palette. Honestly, I feel like this is just going to be the most used because it's just so versatile. There are a lot of mattes in this one, and I think I would have preferred like just have 1 or 2 metallics just added to the mix, just to make it more of an even split, like literally 5 metallics and 10 mattes. Good counting, good counting. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen something maybe a little bit brighter in terms of metallic, but then you have got this one which is pretty bright. I feel like just like the Provence palette, I'm intrigued as to what looks I'm going to be creating with these, because these are kind of, I'd say, the same concept but different shades, like very similar concept but different shades. And I think that's interesting because obviously I like this sort of setup. I like the balance of metallics and mattes. These two are definitely the ones on top tier for me, and then if again I had to group it just to go over everything, the Whistler's Lodge and the Jungle, what's this called? Monteverde palette, again, just as excited for those as each other. And then I feel like these 3 just kind of like chill at the bottom, probably are only going to be touched a couple of times, which is a shame, but like I'm just being real with myself. Like I'm least excited about these as these 4. Let me know, do you have any Nomad palettes? Have you ever ordered from Nomad? Have you got that Valentine's Day palette? Because I'm seeing lots of people do videos of that still, and it's like long gone Valentine's Day. Is it worth picking up? Do I have that on my wish list? What do you think? If you want me to showcase any of these palettes in upcoming videos, please let me know. Maybe a palette bingo might be quite fun, just to use a bit of everything from these. Actually, maybe that's a really good shout. Maybe I'll do a palette bingo. But yeah, talk to me down below about all things Nomad Cosmetics, what you've got, what you haven't. Have you ever been intrigued? Have you ever heard of this brand before? And let me know. Talk to me down in the comments. It's my favourite part about uploading. Thumbs the video up if you have enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell because then you'll be notified of all the videos I upload. Take care guys, stay safe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!